Dear Prime Minister and Secretary of State for Education,
we are writing to you collectively owing to the responsibility that you hold for higher education and or in your capacity as an MP for one of the constituencies in which our university operates.
We are disappointed that the government's announcements, including that on the 4th of January 2021, have, in our opinion, fallen short significantly of acknowledging the scale and depth challenges facing higher education students. The refusal until now to provide adequate financial support for universities represents the wanton abandonment and neglect from this government to university students.
As sabbatical officers who graduated as a part of the 2019-2020 cohort, we understand the stresses and struggles involved in studying through online platforms. While it is possible to maintain academic standards through online delivery, the impact on the student experience is profound. In particular, when students were not anticipating to be studying in this mode, and where access to technology, suitable working environments and higher quality broadband are variable and disproportionately affecting our poorest members.
In refusing to provide adequate financial support for universities and students, the government is also failing to acknowledge that delivery of the curriculum is one aspect of a higher education experience, and there are many other elements that come together to contribute to informing students' development and graduate prospects.
Through no fault of the higher education providers, exposure to these elements has all but vanished since the start of 2021. We understand the need for the government to take unpalatable decisions in response to this pandemic. However, these certain such vast proportion of the student experience becomes untenable for students to be expected to pay full fees when they're getting a third-rate experience.
Any move to require providers to issue refunds to their students will cripple the sector by destabilising institutions and with it further undermining the student experience. We are therefore calling on you to waiver 100% of tuition fees for 2020 and 2021 and 50% of fees for 2019 and 2020 to be underwritten by the government.
Clearly, this would only support students whose tuition is paid through government loans. Self-funding students find themselves in an even more precarious financial position, with the potential for this to force them to suspend or terminate their studies, limiting their life chances.
Therefore, we are also calling on the government to provide a financial bailout package for higher education providers, which includes ring-fenced money through which the institutions can provide reimbursements to their self-funding students.
Our support services are being inundated by students in immediate financial hardship.
Excavated by the government's severe curtailment of sectors such as hospitality, which are such an important source of part-time work for our members. While this approach will not represent cash refunds for all students, it will reduce a major cause of stress, anxiety and dissatisfaction for students and their families, and for many self-funded students it will be the difference between remaining in higher education or not.
The need for this action is further supported by the troubling statistics on mental health conditions amongst the student age population, which show that over a quarter of UK students, 37%, have experienced a decline in the state of their overall mental well-being since commencing their studies.
Waiving these fees will demonstrate that the government understands and cares about the impact of the pandemic is having on their learning, finances, and on their mental health.
Furthermore, we are calling for a law giving students the right to leave their institutions without any financial detriment. This would include accommodation contracts. This would allow for students to leave housing contracts for accommodation that they are legally not allowed to enter. This again would relieve one of the stresses that students face in this uncertain time.
We hope you take the time to read this letter and act on our requests to save the state of the higher education sector and keep students at universities.
Please share this on your social media and send the letter to your local MP. We are here to support you in fighting for what's right, and we will be stronger together.
We look forward to hearing from you. Yours sincerely, Tamsin Granger, President of Bucks Students' Union.
From Tash Neal, your Vice President of Education and Welfare.
Tom Featherstone, Vice President, Student Involvement.